Hi, my name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a marriage and family expert. I'm the director of the Center for Self-Differentiation at Carmel, Indiana, on the north side of Indianapolis. Today's video is entitled, Setting Boundaries Doesn't Mean I Don't Love You. I was working with some clients and we were talking about boundaries and setting boundaries, and I was helping them to strengthen their boundaries with their parents and their family members. Because if we can do it there, we can do it with many other relationships in our lives, because those are some of our core relationships, because that's where our beginning self-differentiation comes from. We were imprinted by our family of origin. If we make changes there, it affects all of our other relationships. Often clients have such a difficult time with boundaries because of the underlying messages they believe boundaries communicate. These messages are often found in dysfunctional families, such as alcoholic families, narcissistic families, immature parent families, abandoning families, shame-based families, guilt-based families, etc. Two rules are often a part of the fabric of the family belief and the family system. This carries over into even how we do boundaries with co-workers and bosses and friends, because we have these two core beliefs. Number one, having no boundaries means you love me or care about me. Having no boundaries means we're connected and we care about each other. Number two, being anxious means you care and are connected to me or the family. So we have to remain anxiously connected to people to feel okay. Now, if you don't believe me about these two rules, just try living by these. Just try not living by these rules. Declare some boundaries or become very calm. Become very calm or declare boundaries and see what reactions you get from other people. If you're very calm, you'll be perceived as being cold, unloving, and you don't care about me. Anxiousness, worry states, and all of those types of things indicate that you matter to the other person or they matter to you. And that's kind of a test in dysfunctional families. And then, of course, boundaries are a part of having a sense of self. And a sense of self does not work well in dysfunctional families. It's perceived as a threat, for sure. What I found over working with over 38 years of being a professional marriage and family expert is this. Why boundaries often do not work is we learn guidelines or learn skills or tools about how to do boundary setting. We'll read books on boundary setting, and by the way, some very good books on boundary settings. I'm going to start a resource list for boundary setting books, and I'd be happy to send them to you if you want to email me. So we learn guidelines. We learn the how to do it. How do I say it? I should say it in a calm way. I should be firm. I should be assertive, etc., etc. We then try to do it, and often it makes things worse, and often we fail. And most folks don't know why. I did it by the recipe. How come the cake didn't come out as I baked it, and as I cooked it, and as I made it? Because boundaries are not just based on a recipe. And successful boundary setting is not based on getting all the steps just right. And why is that the case? Because often we set boundaries when we do not resolve our inner emotional connectedness with our families or spouses or children or bosses. We don't deal with that. We just deal with the external skill of what I should say in terms of the boundary I want. But internally, I'm very weak. very scared, very unsure, and also can be undermined because my belief system is still based on the old belief system, such as boundaries hurt other people, and boundaries are a way of showing not love, and that anxiety and worry state means you care about me, so you have to stay anxious and worried and all enmeshed in the situation. And that equals love or caring in a dysfunctional family. We try to make changes externally without making the changes internally. And many of the books tell you how to do it externally, but they don't often tell you how to do it internally. We try to institute boundaries without seeing the deeper emotional patterns. And we don't know how the emotional systems work. We don't know our part in the emotional system and their part in the emotional system. So we go in blindly doing this boundary setting and then wonder why it blows up. We then find we fail to keep our boundaries, or that the other person we're setting the boundary with undermines our emotional fortitude due to our vulnerabilities and our unresolved feelings and issues towards them or about the family. And because we have those vulnerabilities, our boundaries are often doomed to fail. When we grow up in enmeshed or emotionally fused families, such as all the ones that I mentioned above, any differentiation of self or self-differentiation is viewed and felt as a threat, a discount, a disloyalty, an unloving act or abandonment, and then for many, even as an aggressive act. How dare you ask me to only call you 3 times a week rather than 20 times a week? Don't you care about me? And it becomes almost a threatening act when you say, hey, I can't talk to you 12 times a week. I don't want to, and I don't even need to. There's no need for it. But because we can't set boundaries, because we're afraid of what the other person is going to think about us, because we're still stuck in that dysfunctional family paradigm. When we grow up in families which have some toxicity, just try to be a self or have a self in these families and see what happens. Let me give you some examples. Decide to take a Florida vacation which includes Christmas Day and not attend your family gathering. See how people respond. Decide to visit your out-of-town family and express that you would like to stay in a hotel and not stay with your family while you're there, because they're a narcissistic family, or they're mean, or they're drinking, or whatever they're doing. Try to do that and see what kind of reaction you get from that. Have your mother say, you had a better childhood than many kids in third world country, even though you grew up in an alcoholic home, abusive home, narcissistic home, codependent home, a disapproving, critical home. And then say, but Mom, we didn't live in a third world country. Or say, Dad, I can decide what my experience was growing up for me. I'm not blaming you or Mom. I know you cannot change it, nor is it your responsibility to make it right. I have to work through it. I understand that. But my experience of my childhood with your drinking dad and Mom, your interaction with Dad was much different than the way you see my childhood. We see it differently. This is having paradigm boundaries. This is declaring that you see it differently and have a right to. I'm not blaming them. I'm not accusing them. I'm just owning the paradigm and the reality that I experienced. For another example, setting boundaries to protect your family from a toxic parent. Recently, I had a situation in which a son says to his mother, or we were actually practicing doing this and dealing with all the steps that I'm going to talk to you about in just a minute, and using all those steps so that he could say these things, mean them, and hold to them. A son says to his mother, Mom, you know that Sarah is pregnant with our first child. I would like for you to deal with your anxiety in a different way than to call Sarah every day to express your worries and your fears about what will happen and what I'm doing wrong. I also want to say that we will talk again if my wishes are not followed. And if it continues more, then there will be changes. I care about you, but you must choose other ways to deal with your anxieties and your worry about what I'm doing. Maybe seeing a therapist, a coach, a counselor, a pastor, or expressing your fears or displeasures with others rather than Sarah would be my request. But that's your decision, and I need to express that my wife and new child comes first, Mom. Remember, setting boundaries is not simply a request for someone to change their behavior towards you, or to simply respect something about you, or to ask them to restrain themselves from certain actions. Boundaries are a request which affects not only behavior, but an entire emotional system. Knowing how this emotional system works is critical and will give you leverage and knowledge about how to keep your boundaries in place and what to expect from others so you can handle yourself in the family or emotional system to remain differentiated and to keep your boundaries. Remember, for each boundary set, there's an equal and opposite force against your boundary in any family or emotional system. The system is built to maintain the status quo. A boundary challenges the status quo. Know this and keep that in your mind. Plan for this. Lessen your vulnerabilities and bolster your sense of self. This can all be learned and practiced in a new emotional paradigm, and a new emotional paradigm can be achieved, resulting in self-differentiation. I've seen it 1,000 times. I know it's possible. I know if I can do it, anybody can do it. Coming from a background of being very codependent, worrying always what other people thought or felt, not being able to set boundaries, never being able to say no, I know what it's like to be stuck in that. Many of us fear setting boundaries. We have tried and failed so many times. We've tried and had fierce resistance so many times. We've tried and suffered many consequences from many family members or others as a result of setting boundaries. So we all have some boundary setting phobia now. So what is the process of overcoming this boundary phobia? Learning to set boundaries with others involves these steps and processes. Understand the emotional system and predict others' reactions to your boundary setting on any particular issue. This helps you to prepare for and deal with others' false hurt and others' false victimhood. Also, there are some great readings on this to help you understand emotional systems much better. I'd be happy to send that to you. If you send me an email, I'll send you a listing of resources. Family systems readings like Harriet Lerner, Jenny Brown, Andrea Schara, Schara. Those are some good authors to give you an idea about emotional systems. You'll be much stronger and much more leveraged in what you can do. Second of all, understand how I function in this emotional system and predict my reactions and prepare for my false guilt, my false shame, and my false disloyalty or false unlove. Because it's not true unlove, it's false. It's not real shame. Should I feel ashamed when I tell someone or a family member, no, I'd rather not go to that event, but please ask me again. I'd be happy to do something. If I feel guilt by saying no because I really don't want to go, that's false guilt. It's not real guilt. It's systems guilt. It's a guilt that was created by the system. Thirdly, prepare to stand firm and learn to do nothing to ease the emotional system's reactions. Learning to stay non-reactive, calm, and focused on self versus others. And that's what I often find when people often are setting boundaries and they're new at doing it, and they read a book on setting boundaries, so now they're going to do it. They go with the experience of over-focusing on the other and under-focusing on themselves, and then it doesn't work well, and it gets very confusing. And they're always trying to worry about what the other person is going to do. But they don't know themselves well. And I think the goal is to know the other person and to know you, and then maintain self. Boundary setting takes planning, especially when you're dealing with toxic families. It's not just a matter of going and making a request. Many people say, well, why don't you just tell them that's what you want? Well, because it's like the mobile, where all the pieces are connected by string and they hang. And then if you pull one of the pieces, it affects all the rest. That's what an emotional system is. So in a mobile, where all the pieces are connected and you're holding it up and all the pieces have string on it in a mobile. And when you choose to set a boundary, you're pulling on one of those pieces, and it creates and causes the whole system to move. So why does it take planning to set boundaries? Because blurring of selves is the norm for dysfunctional families. Self or selfhood is a threat to toxic or immature families. Lowering your anxiety and becoming more mature and calm means in an unhealthy family, you don't love me, you're cold, you don't care about me. And again, just try it and see how that is received in a dysfunctional family. Increasing your boundaries means you are threatening the status quo, and you are not truly being caring and loyal to the family or to me or whoever you're setting the boundaries with. Boundary setting raises anxiety in other people and in families that are already chronic and now become acute and already having this chronic anxiety. I've talked to many, many, many people who said, I've always felt that chronic anxiety in my family all of my life. And then when I go to family gatherings, it even goes up higher. That's often why we end up reverting back to more childhood-like roles and behaviors when we go back to family settings. That anxiety takes over, and it takes over everyone in the family system. That's that chronic anxiety that comes from that enmeshment. Self-differentiation and non-enmeshment, non-fusion, is much more calm and relaxed. But in families that are not healthy, it's very high. Then when you set a boundary, it really can get acute. Our goal is to get the chronic anxiety out of us, to get our family out of us. And remember, they won't give up their chronic anxiety, their chronic fear, their chronic anger, their chronic enmeshment. The bad news is they won't give up the chronic anxiety. The good news is it doesn't matter. You can work on and give up yours. That's what will change your life. I don't have to have other people be calm and non-anxious for me to be happy. And that's huge. That's very freeing. Your family doesn't have to get their family out of them for you to get your family out of you. Let me share some more steps to successful boundary setting with families and others. I needed to check the time. First of all, uncover the family narrative or rules or paradigm in your family. This is how I work with clients, to uncover that. What is the family paradigm? What is the narrative and the rules for this family? Secondly, disbelieve them. Begin to disbelieve them. Thirdly, decide what you truly believe that may go counter to the family rules or the family roles that everyone must play. Predict your reactions and their reactions. Most people can predict them very well. I'll do role plays with clients and I'll say, okay, now you be your mother and I'm going to come and share with you, by the way, I want to, I won't be coming to that mother-daughter banquet that I really don't want to go to. And then they play their mother and they can share their mother's reaction almost to a T. People know what to expect in terms of the reactions of others. So you can anticipate their reactions. You've lived with them for years. You know how they're going to react. Also, you can predict how you're going to react emotionally. And that's learning the family system, learning the emotional system. This will give you leverage and a way through. Decide what steps you will take to counter these reactions. Reduce your anxiety and increase your tolerance to calmness. Remember, guilt, worry, anxiety, and shame states do not equal love or caring. Communicate the boundary. Decide what follow-up action you will take consistent with your beliefs and about what family rules should be and what norms should be. Resist rescuing the object of the boundary or the person of the boundary. Resist it by not fixing, not soothing, not making up with the family, simply doing it out of reactivity. That will only maintain the status quo. Let time pass. And then repeat those 11 steps again. Obviously, this is only a 15-minute video, and I can't offer you all of the things that we can do to make boundaries successful. Or in your particular situation, how you would work on learning to set and stay firm with boundaries and have a successful outcome. But I wanted to give you a taste of how successful boundaries are possible and why our attempts in the past have not worked. Call me, email me. My contact information is on the screen. It's on the YouTube paragraph down there. I'll send you information about me and my services that I offer and free resources for helping you with boundaries. I offer Skype and FaceTime coaching and professional help with clients who I have all over the world. So as long as you can speak English, I'll be happy to work with you. No longer are people stuck with the professionals in their area who are experts. You can connect with the best experts now online. I want to thank you today for watching and have a great day.